The planet was not supposed to have life. That was the first rule every traveler knew. The forbidden planet, marked on every star map with red warnings, surrounded by stories of death and silence. Ships that went close to it never returned. Whole crews had vanished without a single distress call. Some said the air itself killed. Some whispered about strange machines, old as the stars. Others believed monsters walked its surface. So, when the Galactic Council said no one could survive there, the galaxy listened. For thousands of years, no species dared to land. No one, except a human. It began when a broken signal reached the outer colonies. Just 3 words. I am alive. The voice was human. Weak, but clear. And it came directly from the forbidden planet. No one believed it at first. Some said it was a trick, an echo from old data. Others laughed. No one could last 10 minutes on that world. But humans were different. They had a strange reputation in the galaxy. Fragile bodies, short lifespans, but a will that burned hotter than suns. If a human voice claimed survival, then maybe, just maybe, it was true. The council argued. Alien leaders demanded the message be ignored. Better we erase it. No species should enter that cursed place, they said. But others disagreed. If a human is alive, then something has changed. The galaxy must know. Far away, on the human homeworld Earth, soldiers and scientists listened to the faint signal. They knew what it meant. One of their own was alive, alone, where no one else could survive. And that was enough. Humanity would not stay silent. But before rescue could be planned, the story of how the humans survived began to spread. The voice told pieces of it, broken by static. The transmission carried fear, but also determination. It spoke of storms of ash, skies that burned red, and shadows that moved like hunters in the dark. The human had landed by accident. His ship was torn apart in orbit, dragged down by invisible forces. He should have died. But he did not. For 7 long nights, he hid inside the broken hull, drinking recycled water and breathing air that stung like poison. The planet seemed alive, as if it wanted him gone. Strange shapes moved around the wreck, never fully seen, only felt. Metal groaned in the night, though no hands touched it. He fought hunger. He fought fear. And when the air inside the wreck grew too thin, he stepped outside. Every warning said no creature could survive a single breath. Yet he lived. His lungs burned, his skin blistered, but he endured. Aliens who heard the recording were in shock. A Vlar scientist hissed in disbelief. The atmosphere is toxic. Even machines corrode within hours. How can he walk outside? A Koran warlord growled, impossible. Unless the planet itself accepted him. Theories spread, but the truth was stranger. The human survived because he refused to surrender. His body adapted, forcing itself to endure pain no other species could withstand. Each day he pushed farther from the wreck, searching for food, water, shelter. Each night he lit a small fire, though the flames burned an unnatural color, as if the air itself resisted. And always, he felt eyes on him. The forbidden world was not empty. Something moved in the fog, shapes tall as towers, crawling on too many legs. Machines, or creatures, or both. They circled but did not strike. As if watching. As if testing him. On the 7th night, one of them came close. Metal skin, glowing eyes, a voice like grinding stone. It leaned over the fire and spoke in a language no living race had heard for 1,000 years. The human did not understand. But he did not run. He stood, weak but unbroken. Perhaps that was the moment the planet decided he could stay. Now his signal traveled across the stars, drawing attention from powers both curious and afraid. If one human could survive, what did it mean for the rest? What secret lay hidden on the planet's surface? Was it a graveyard of an ancient empire, or the seed of something greater? The galaxy waited for answers. Armies prepared, explorers sharpened their blades, and the council argued through endless nights. But deep inside the forbidden world, the human kept walking, step by step, deeper into the unknown. And the shadows followed him. The human steps left no trace on the ground, yet the planet remembered every move. The soil was black, thick with ash, and it swallowed sound. Each footstep seemed too quiet, as if the world itself was listening. Behind him, the wreck of his ship was nothing more than a broken skeleton. Metal bones sticking out, smoke still rising. He did not look back. There was no point. To survive, he had to move forward. But the world was not empty. He felt it first in his bones, like vibrations crawling under the skin. The ground trembled in pulses, as if a giant heart beat somewhere below. Then came the whispers. They were not real sounds, more like thoughts brushing against his mind. Words in no tongue he knew. Still, he understood their meaning. Why do you resist? Why do you remain? He clenched his jaw and kept walking. Humans had no special weapons, no claws, no natural armor. What they had was something else, the refusal to bow, even when every breath burned like acid. By the second week, hunger gnawed at him worse than the poison air. He found water trickling through stone, glowing faintly blue in the dark. It smelled like rust and lightning. He drank it anyway. His body screamed, but it lived. Food was harder. The plants were twisted, black vines with sharp edges. The first time he chewed one, his throat almost closed. But he forced himself to swallow. Days later, he learned which ones killed slowly, and which ones kept him strong enough to take the next step. The planet tested him, but he refused to fall. Far above, in orbit, silent ships began to gather. The Galactic Council forbade anyone from landing, yet curiosity was stronger than law. Vessels from dozens of species came to watch. Some wanted to rescue the human. Others wanted to study him. And some wanted him to fail, so the legend of the Forbidden Planet would remain untouched. Inside one of those ships, a young alien officer whispered in disbelief. "He should be dead. Yet he walks." Her commander answered coldly, "That is what makes them dangerous. Humans do not know when to stop." On the surface, the human built shelter out of stone and wreckage. Each night, he lit fire against the unnatural wind. The flames burned green, blue, sometimes even black, but they kept the cold away. Around him, the shadows moved closer. One night, a shape stepped into the firelight. It was tall, more machine than flesh, but its movements were alive. 6 legs, a body of steel, and eyes that glowed like suns dying. It lowered its head and stared at the human. The whispers grew louder. "Leave this place. You are not of us." The human stared back. His lips cracked, his throat raw, but he forced his voice to rise. "I'm not leaving." For a long time, the machine creature did not move. Then, without warning, it struck the ground. The earth cracked. Fire spat from the wound. And yet, when the smoke cleared, the human still stood. Weak. Shaking. But standing. The creature tilted its head. Then it stepped back into the shadows, leaving him alive. That night, as he lay under his broken shelter, the human understood something. He was not fighting to survive anymore. He was being tested. The planet was not trying to kill him. It was measuring him. And it was waiting. Weeks passed. His body grew thinner, but his eyes grew sharper. Pain became a constant, but he used it like a weapon. He learned the rhythm of the planet's storms, how to hide when the sky rained fire, how to climb when the ground split open. Slowly, the world that had killed thousands before began to shape itself around him. Far in orbit, the watchers grew restless. Some began to argue. If he survives longer, he will unlock the planet's secret. Others whispered of danger. If humans can live here, they can live anywhere. But the human did not care who watched. His world was the ash, the fire, the whispers in the dark. On the 30th night, the shadows returned. Not one this time, many. A circle of machine creatures surrounded his fire. Their glowing eyes pierced the night. The ground shook as they spoke, Not with voices, but with thought. You are not like the others. Why do you remain? He lifted his head, every muscle screaming, but his spirit unbroken. His answer was simple. Because I must. The shadows waited. Then, one by one, they stepped back, leaving him alone again. But this time, he did not feel like prey. He felt like a guest. Far away, on Earth, the broken signal carried those final words through space. Because I must. And across the galaxy, millions listened in silence. No one knew yet if he would live or die. But one truth had already shaken the stars. The forbidden planet had met its first human. And it had not killed him. The 31st day began with silence. No storms. No whispers. No tremors under the ground. The air still burned, the ash still clung to his skin, but the world felt, waiting. The human rose from his shelter, weak but alive. His body was scarred, blistered, thinner than ever. Yet his steps were steady. Each movement carried the same message, I will not fall. He climbed higher that morning, following a ridge of black stone. From above, he saw more of the planet than ever before. Valleys filled with glowing rivers. Forests of twisted metal that looked like machines but grew like trees. Mountains shaped like broken towers, reaching for the red sky. And in the distance, something impossible. A city. It was half buried, drowned in ash and stone. Towers leaned sideways, bridges hung broken, and strange symbols glowed faintly on every wall. The place was ancient, older than any civilization the galaxy remembered. 4 hours, the human stared. Then he started walking. Each step toward the ruins felt heavier. The air grew colder, and the whispers pressed harder against his mind. This time they were clearer. Turn back. You are not ready. But he did not turn. By nightfall, he reached the edge of the city. The ground was covered in glass, as if fire had burned so hot it melted the stone. Machines lay scattered like bones, broken giants, silent but not dead. Their eyes were dark, but their shapes were too perfect to be natural. The human stepped inside. At once, the whispers changed. Not anger. Not warning. Something else. Almost curiosity. Why do you seek us? He did not answer. Words would not matter. He kept moving through the ruins, lighting a small fire at the base of a fallen tower. That night, he dreamed. He saw stars being born and dying in fire. He saw ships made of light, traveling faster than thought. He saw beings taller than mountains, with minds vast enough to shape worlds. And then, he saw war. Endless war. The great ones tearing each other apart until nothing was left but silence. When he woke, the fire was gone, and one of the machine creatures stood before him. It was larger than the others, its body marked with the same glowing symbols as the city walls. Its voice entered his mind like thunder. Why do you endure? The human's throat was dry, but he forced the words out. Because life fights. Always. The creature lowered itself, its glowing eyes burning brighter. For a long moment, it did not move. Then it stepped aside. Behind it, a doorway opened in the stone, glowing with faint blue light. The human hesitated. Every instinct told him it was a trap. But another instinct, stronger, pushed him forward. He walked through. Inside, the ruins were not ruins at all. Beneath the ash, beneath the stone, the city still lived. Machines hummed softly, lights flickered in patterns, walls shifted as if alive. It was a labyrinth of technology older than memory. The whispers grew stronger. This time, many voices, layered together. We are the first. We are the last. We are the ones who built the chains of stars. The human stopped. He did not understand, not fully. But he knew one thing. He was standing inside the heart of something that had once ruled the galaxy. Something that had vanished long before his kind walked on Earth. And they were not dead. They were watching him. Far above, the orbiting ships picked up a new signal. Not the weak, broken voice of one man, but a surge of power, ancient and vast. For the first time in thousands of years, the forbidden planet spoke. The council went into panic. Some demanded the human be destroyed before he awoke whatever slept below. Others shouted to protect him, to learn from him. Warships armed their weapons. Explorers whispered of glory. But on the surface, the human walked deeper, past walls that glowed with shifting stars. He touched one with his hand, and the lights responded, changing shape. He saw his own reflection, not his face, but the human race. Fragile, small, burning with defiance. The whispers grew soft. Perhaps you are worthy. The ground shook. The city stirred. And for the first time since he crashed, the human felt something new. Not fear. Not pain. But hope. Because if the planet was truly alive, if it held the last memory of a civilization that once shook the stars, then he had not just survived. He had found a secret that could change the galaxy forever. And the shadows knew it. They were no longer testing him. They were guiding him. Preparing him for what was coming next. In orbit above the forbidden planet, the stars no longer looked calm. Dozens of ships hung in silence. Council cruisers, explorer vessels, hidden warships. They circled like vultures, watching the surface below. Every species waited for news, but none dared to land. The warnings of old still whispered in their minds, all who enter never return. But now, one human had survived. And worse, he had gone deeper. The first burst of ancient energy had shaken every scanner, every sensor. It was not natural. It was technology, old, powerful, awake again after ages of sleep. And it had been triggered by him. Inside the council's flagship, voices rose in panic. This cannot be allowed, one alien leader hissed, its skin flashing red in fear. If the human awakens what sleeps, we are doomed, another cried. But others saw something different. If he can survive, if he can unlock the planet's secrets, then maybe the power can be ours. Greed, fear, hope, all burned together. On the surface, the human walked deeper into the glowing halls. His hands brushed walls that pulsed with strange light. Each touch answered him, like the city itself recognized his presence. The whispers returned, no longer harsh, no longer warning. You endure. You resist. You refuse to fall. You are like us. He did not understand all their words, but he understood the meaning. This was no simple planet. It was a vault, a memory, a guardian of something greater than himself. And now, it was watching him closely. Far above, one ship broke formation. Sleek, armed, driven by desperation. A Koran warlord had decided to claim the prize for himself. He ordered his soldiers to land. If one human can walk there, so can we. The ship pierced the red clouds, burning as it fell, but it survived. Troops in heavy armor marched onto the surface, weapons raised. Their leader sneered when he saw the ruins. Ancient toys, he muttered. We will take what we want. But the planet had been silent for long enough. The ground split open beneath their feet. Towers of metal rose from the ash, glowing with fire. The machine creatures emerged, taller and stronger than before. Their eyes blazed. Their voices thundered in the soldiers' minds. You are not chosen. The Koran fired. Their weapons spat light, but the beams vanished in the air, absorbed by unseen shields. One by one, the soldiers were struck down. Not killed, removed. As if the planet itself erased their presence. In orbit, the other ships watched in fear. The planet defends him, someone whispered. And deep below, the human heard the echoes of battle. He did not run. He pressed forward, his steps slow, steady. The walls shifted around him, opening into a vast chamber. It was a hall of stars. Above him, the ceiling shone with moving constellations, glowing with living light. At the center stood a great machine, shaped like a throne but built for no creature he knew. It pulsed with the same energy that had shaken the galaxy. The whispers grew louder, all around him. We were first. We reached beyond the edge of time. We built empires of light. And we destroyed ourselves. The human stepped closer. He felt the weight of history pressing against him. Civilizations had risen and fallen, and their ashes had built this place. And yet, the voices said something else. We left a test. Only those who endure may awaken what we guarded. The human reached out his hand. The machine flared with light, brighter than suns. For a moment, every ship above the planet saw it. The surface glowed like a beacon. The forbidden planet had chosen. Panic spread through the fleet. Some prepared to fire, desperate to destroy both human and planet. Others shouted to protect him, to see what came next. The galaxy stood on the edge of chaos. And at the heart of it all, the human stood before the throne of a dead empire, feeling its power stir. He had not just survived. He had been accepted. But acceptance came with a price. The whispers turned cold. If you awaken us fully, you awaken our war. The galaxy will burn again. Do you understand, human? He closed his eyes. Pain burned through his body, but his spirit remained unbroken. His answer was simple, the same as before. I will not fall. The machine pulsed once more, as if it listened. The walls shook, the stars above shifted, and something vast began to rise beneath the surface. Something older than every race watching from the skies. The test was no longer his alone. The galaxy itself was about to face the judgment of the forbidden planet. The ground did not stop shaking. From the heart of the ruins, deep under the black stone, something vast was rising. The human could feel it through his bones. The air vibrated, the walls trembled, the very sky above cracked with thunder. In orbit, the fleet broke into chaos. Ships pulled away in fear, while others moved closer, desperate to see. Messages filled the void. Destroy it now. Wait, it could be the key to everything. Save the human. Erase him before it's too late. The galaxy had never agreed on much, but now it was split wide open. On the surface, the human stood before the glowing machine. Light from the throne pulsed into his chest, searing his skin but filling him with strength. The whispers thundered all around him. You have endured. You have proven yourself. But will your kind? He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to speak through the pain. Humanity will fight. Always. The chamber roared with sound. The stars on the ceiling shifted, showing endless war, the rise and fall of civilizations, empires burning, galaxies torn apart. We fought. We failed. We fell. The voices were heavy with sorrow. If you awaken us, our war returns. Will your people bear the cost? He did not answer. Not yet. Above, the fleet finally broke its silence. A council warship moved forward, weapons glowing. Its commander snarled, "End this before he dooms us all." But before the ship could fire, the planet answered. A beam of light tore from the surface, faster than thought, brighter than any weapon. It struck the warship, not destroying it, but freezing it in place. Every system went silent. Engines died. Weapons powered down. The mighty cruiser drifted helpless, captured by a force older than stars. The message was clear: do not touch him. The other fleets pulled back in terror. Some fled into the void. Others stayed, unable to look away. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy feared not each other, but a single man standing on a forbidden world. And the man himself? He did not run. The throne before him shifted, opening like a flower of steel and light. Inside it, he saw shapes, data, symbols, whole histories pouring into the air around him. His eyes widened as he realized the truth. The forbidden planet was not a graveyard. It was a prison. Locked inside its heart was a weapon, the last creation of the first civilization. A weapon so powerful it had destroyed even its makers. The voices whispered again. We swore none would wield it unless they endured what we could not. You, human, have passed where all others failed. His breath caught. He was no soldier, no king. Just a survivor. And yet, the planet was asking him to carry the weight of galaxies. He whispered back, voice raw. "Why me?" The reply came like a storm. "Because you refused to fall. Because you are human." Far above, more ships arrived. Not just scouts now, armies. Entire fleets of rival species, each racing to claim the prize. The skies above the planet became a storm of engines and weapons. The galaxy had come to take what was his. But the planet was not finished. The ruins around him shifted, walls rising, towers awakening. The machine creatures emerged in greater numbers, glowing brighter, moving with purpose. They were no longer shadows. They were guardians, an army of the old empire, reawakened after ages of silence. And they bowed to him. The human felt his chest tighten. Not pride. Not joy. The weight was too heavy. Yet he stood, because standing was all he had ever done. In orbit, the watching fleets finally broke. The first shot came from a desperate pirate vessel, seeking to strike before others could. A beam of fire lanced toward the surface. But it never touched. The entire planet flared with light, a shield of power stretching into the stars. The attack vanished like dust in the wind. And in that moment, every being watching understood the truth. The forbidden planet had awakened. And it had chosen a human. Panic swept the galaxy. Some fled, others armed for war, and a few whispered the most dangerous thought of all: perhaps humanity should lead us. On the surface, the human raised his eyes to the burning sky. He was no longer just a survivor. He was the key to something greater, something dangerous. The whispers pressed harder. Choose, human. Open the weapon, or let it sleep. Decide for all who live among the stars. His fists clenched. His body shook. And though he said nothing, one truth burned in his mind. He had survived the impossible. But now, survival was not enough. The sky above the forbidden planet burned with fire. Fleets of every kind filled the heavens. Council warships, pirate raiders, explorers, mercenaries. Some came for power. Some came for fear. But all of them pointed their weapons at the world below. And at the man standing on its surface. Inside the ancient ruins, the human felt the ground shake harder than ever before. The machine creatures gathered around him, glowing like stars. Their voices thundered in his mind. They come to take what is not theirs. Will you let them? He clenched his fists. He had survived storms, poison air, hunger, and shadows. But now the galaxy itself was coming. His voice was hoarse, but steady. No, I won't. The throne of light pulsed. The walls around him opened, revealing a core of blinding energy. It was the heart of the weapon, the one that had destroyed the first empire. The voices whispered, "Open it, and the stars obey you." But the stars will also burn. The choice pressed on him like a mountain. If he unleashed the weapon, no fleet could stop him. Humanity would rise, and every species would bow. But billions, maybe trillions, would die. And if he refused, the fleets would tear the planet apart. Humanity's chance would vanish, and the galaxy would remain broken, forever ruled by fear and greed. Above, the first shot was fired. A council battleship launched a storm of fire toward the surface. Explosions lit the sky. The planet's shield blazed to life, holding the attack back. But the fleets were no longer waiting. The war had begun. Dozens of ships clashed in orbit, beams of light cutting across the void. Cruisers exploded, smaller vessels burned, and the stars filled with wreckage. Every species fought, not just against the planet, but against each other, desperate to claim the prize for themselves. On the surface, the humans staggered as the shield rippled. The planet groaned under the pressure of so much fire. The voices screamed in his head. Choose now. Choose. He dropped to his knees, clutching his head. His mind filled with visions, not just of war, but of peace. He saw Earth, fragile and small, still fighting to rise among the stars. He saw alien children, laughing on worlds far away. He saw flames consuming them all if he chose wrong. The machine creatures formed a circle around him, their eyes glowing brighter. They were ready to obey, ready to unleash destruction at his command. But the human was silent. Above, a Koran dreadnought broke through the chaos, diving toward the surface. Its commander shouted, "Seize the weapon! Kill the human!" Thousands of soldiers prepared to drop. The planet answered first. The ground split apart, and towers of light erupted from the earth. Giant shapes rose from the ash, machines the size of mountains, older than time. Their eyes burned like suns, and their steps shook the world. The true guardians of the forbidden planet had awakened. The dreadnought never reached the surface. One strike from a guardian's hand shattered it into fire. The fleets watching froze in terror. Some turned their weapons away. Others kept fighting, but their fear grew with every heartbeat. And in the center of it all, the human stood, his eyes reflecting the throne's light. The voices whispered one last time. "You endured. You survived. Now decide, do we rise again, or do we sleep forever?" His heart pounded. His throat burned. He thought of the first word he had sent across the stars, "I am alive." Now, the galaxy waited for his next. Slowly, painfully, he rose to his feet. His body was broken, but his spirit stood tall. He placed his hand on the throne. The energy flared, brighter than suns. Every ship in orbit froze, their systems locked. Every voice across the galaxy fell silent. For one breathless moment, the human held the fate of everything. He could burn the stars. He could save them. He could reshape the galaxy with a single choice. The guardians bowed, waiting. The fleets trembled, helpless. And the man who was never supposed to survive stood at the center of it all, facing the greatest decision in history. The forbidden planet had chosen him. But his choice was still his own. The galaxy held its breath. In orbit, fleets of every kind hung frozen. Weapons dimmed. Engines stalled. Even the voices of commanders fell silent. All eyes turned to one place, the human standing before the throne of light. The throne burned in his hands, pouring fire into his veins. The power of an empire older than memory waited for his command. Around him, the guardians, machines taller than mountains, stood still, ready to obey. And the voices whispered, "Decide. Rise and burn. Or sleep, and let it end." The human's body shook with pain. His skin blistered, his lungs burned with poison, but his eyes stayed steady. He remembered the long nights of hunger, the storms that tore at his flesh, the shadows that tested him. He remembered standing alone, refusing to fall. Now he carried more than his own survival. He carried the fate of stars. In his mind, he saw the future split in two. If he unleashed the weapon, the fleets above would be crushed, and humanity would rise as the strongest race in history. No one would dare touch Earth. No one would ever again call them weak. But the galaxy would drown in fire. Trillions of lives would be lost. The cycle of war would begin again, worse than before. If he refused, the fleets might return to fighting, humanity might remain small, and the galaxy might forget his struggle. But there would still be hope. Hope that his defiance had shown another path. Hope that endurance, not destruction, could change the stars. The voices pressed harder. "Choose, human. Choose." His heart pounded. His voice was raw, but he forced the words out. "I choose life." The throne flared with a final burst of light. The ground shook, the ruins trembled, and the guardians lowered their heads. The power inside the weapon began to fade, not into destruction, but into silence. The planet itself seemed to sigh. "So be it. We sleep again. But remember this, you endured where all others failed. You showed us that life still fights. That life still hopes." The light dimmed. The throne closed. The voices faded into echoes. And the planet grew quiet. In orbit, the fleets watched in disbelief. No firestorm, no wave of death. The human had turned away from power. He had refused to be the destroyer. For a long time, no one moved. Then, one by one, the ships pulled back. Some in relief, some in shame, some in silent respect. None dared to fire. None dared to land. They had all seen the same truth: the forbidden planet had chosen humanity. And humanity had chosen mercy. On the surface, the human collapsed. His body had nothing left to give. But even as he lay on the ash, his lips whispered the words that had carried him this far. I am alive. The signal went out again, carried by the planet itself, brighter and clearer than before. Every world, every race, every corner of the galaxy heard it. A single human voice, scarred and broken, but undefeated. I am alive. On Earth, millions wept. On distant colonies, humans stood taller, no longer seen as fragile but as unbreakable. Across the galaxy, species who had once laughed at humanity now spoke their name with awe. He had not claimed the weapon. He had not taken the throne. But he had done something greater. He had survived where no one else could. He had faced the test of an empire older than time, and he had chosen mercy over fire. That choice would echo through the stars forever. The forbidden planet fell silent again, its guardians sinking back into the ash, its ruins closing. It would wait for another age, another test. But for now, its judgment was clear. Humanity was no longer just another young race. Humanity was the race that endured. And the galaxy would never forget the day one man proved them all wrong.